Here are the features for the 0.8.20, 21, and 22 releases. The first feature is a quality of life feature. You can now drag any on-the-fly or rollable item into the macro bar. So in this case, if I want Bog to roll perception, I can drag his perception down here, and it creates a script macro that rolls his perception. And this shows one of the new features. You can now call execute OTF with an on-the-fly formula from your JavaScript code. So in this case, a script macro. So here we'll drag the healing roll, and I want to drag this modifier. This also works from the chat. If the GM types this on-the-fly formula into the chat window, the players see this button, which they can drag and drop into the macro, and then they can execute it. Of course, being a blind roll, the players can't see it, but the GM can. The next feature shows up if you have two icons on top of each other, or sorry, two tokens on top of each other, and you're trying to apply damage. When you drop the damage, a dialog will appear and ask you which of the two guys you want to apply the damage to, and if so, then it opens up the damage dialog for that particular character. The next feature has to do with the resource trackers. In the system settings, you can now view and edit your tracker configurations. We come pre-built with the control points tracker, which is used by Douglas Cole's fantastic dungeon Grappling, but you may create your own and assign them to a particular tracker slot. Once you assign the slot, it will be populated when you re-import the character. And here are the control points. As before, you can click on the pencil icon to edit this particular tracker, delete it, or copy one of the other templates that you may have created. And if you've defined your resource as something that can be treated as a damage type, then you can use the damage calculator to apply damage to it. You can see in the pull-down menu that you can now apply this damage to control points. In the case of control points, damage actually increases the control points that an enemy has on you. You have to go read the PDF to understand it all. But after applying the damage, you can see that Bog is now grabbed. The next feature is a slight change to the damage calculator. You can see this particular Mooc, the Goblin, only has DR in the torso. It was built using the Mooc Generator, and it only assigns damage resistance to the one location. But let's say you're playing with all the various hit locations, and the character attacks the neck. You can use the override DR to say, oh, no, they have 2 DR in the neck location also. Everything else is the same. It's mainly just used for moocs or NPCs that you haven't completely filled out. And of course, it can also be used by GMs in case they need to fudge the damage resistance of their particularly squishy NPCs. We have a few updates to the on-the-fly system. Attacks can now cost fatigue points. This was supported by skills, but it's now also supported by attacks. And the damage is now case-insensitive, so capital cut or all caps cut will still appear as cut. If you're running in a different language, you can use the localization for that term, in this case, Brazilian Portuguese. So you can see Bog has 16 fatigue and does his attack, but now only has 15. And we can do 2D cut and 2D cut. And of course, the last one doesn't work because I'm not actually running in Brazilian Portuguese right now. We've added to the chat commands. You can now roll a table. In this case, I'll roll the trap damage table. And we took a user-supplied macro and turned it into a chat feature. You can now bring up the fright check for your character. Thank you. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name. It's on the screen. Currently, you must select all the options that are appropriate for your character. We can't do that for you yet. And if you actually have a roll table filled out with the fright check information, you can enter the name here. And this will roll the fright check, and then if it fails, it'll add that to the next roll onto the fright check table. I don't currently have a fright check table, so this just rolled to see if it was a success or not. And the last chat enhancement is one I think everybody's been waiting for. You can have everybody execute that on-the-fly formula. So if you need to roll a blind perception check for everybody, you execute that. You can use almost any on-the-fly formula. You can do damage, you can do an attribute or skill check or an attack. You cannot do a modifier because that does not actually change the modifier bucket. It only adds to your own modifier bucket. It doesn't make sense to do a PDF. And you can't call a chat macro from inside the everyone command because it can get into a funky loop. So everyone is every character that is owned by a player. So basically the party. So in this case, I'm going to have everyone just roll 1d impaling damage from the spikes they just stepped on. And of course, we have bug fixes. Probably the most important bug fix is that we now better support Unicode characters in names. For example, Alan Rocktalker. And I forgot to mention, we have started our German and Russian translations. Thank you, everybody, for contributing to those. We hope you like the new functionality. And as always, thank you for watching.